Welcome to the 11th webinar session for Coffee with Coral. In this video, we talk to JSF Technologies about their industry-leading solar-powered flashing beacons, radar-activated beacon systems, and their brand new illumination series. Okay, let's join the session, and thanks for watching.
So welcome everybody. Good morning to those of you from Oregon, Washington, and Alaska, and good afternoon to everybody from Idaho and Montana. This is Coffee with Coral. Today we're going to be covering JSF Technologies and their flashing beacon systems / pedestrian vehicle safety systems, however you want to call them. So this here is a picture of their newest RRFB, rectangular rapid.
Oh, Ryan, you Ryan? You're still there, Ryan?
Regional manager for Oregon, Idaho, and Montana.
Hey, Ryan, we lost you there.
You lost my video?
We lost you in total. You started talking about the
Can't
RRP.
see me or hear me?
No, you're good now. You're good now. Looks like Ryan's video feed might be down. Well, while he's trying to get up, I'm Damian Casados. I'm your regional manager for Washington, Alaska. So I met a couple of you. So thanks for joining us today. And the person who started off the event was Ryan Lowe. He's the regional sales manager for Oregon, Idaho, and Montana for Coral Sales. And then we have Rowan Plaxton on board, who's our JSF rep that put this fantastic presentation together for you. So with that, we'll flip it on over to Rowan and let him go through the event today.
Wonderful. Thanks, Damien. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound good.
Okay, but you don't see me.
Nope, you are, all I see is your name.
Okay. I'm going to try, can you let me screen share? Oh, you can, good. Let me, oh. How about this? Can you see it now?
No, not yet. Oh, I still see your name.
Huh.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Okay, well, this thing is turning into a lot of fun here. Sorry about that.
Right now, I'm sharing my, I've got Adam Hillis here, my colleague, our sales manager with me. My name's Rowan Plaxton. I sort of look after the business development side of things. I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to try and go through this slide pack, technology willing. And then at the end of this, we're going to show you guys our background if the camera lets us. So I apologize to anybody listening. I think we're all kind of having a little bit of technological issues here. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Damien. So we welcome everybody to the Flashing Coral session, or sorry, the Flashing Beacon session of Coffee with Coral. We're going to talk about solar LED products for traffic lighting applications and how they save, basically they save time and money when compared to overall conventional AC or grid powered systems. So we'll take you through some of our core product families, discuss some of the features and the most common applications. And then we'll take a look through our new area lighting products for enhanced crosswalk lighting and complete pathway and parking lot illumination. This is a very high level overview just to show everybody all the products that are available to them. So we're also going to relay some of the primary benefits of solar and LED in general, and how they can make your lives easier and ultimately reduce project costs for you and for your customers.
Hey, Rowan, we can now see you. Look up and look into the camera that's in front of you. It's not coming from your laptop. It looks like it's coming from the back. The camera.
It is, yeah.
There it is.
So I apologize. I'm going to be looking at my screen here.
Okay.
This is the one that's going to be showing you guys.
Yep, there you go.
So yeah, good. I'm glad that eventually worked out. Patience works, eh? So I'm going to walk you guys, everybody was walking through a slide pack, and then after that, we'll fire up some of these beasts behind us and open it up to Q&A. And Yeah, we'll have questions at the end, but if there's something pressing and somebody wants to chime in and answer or ask a question, that's no problem. We'll keep it real informal that way. So I'm going to stop this sharing and I'm going to switch to this view. Do you guys see this?
Yep, you're good to go.
Excellent. Well, that worked better than I hoped it would, or I thought it would. Okay, so flashing beacons, Coffee with Coral, February 11th. Okay, so we'll go through this fairly briefly. As I mentioned, this is a very high-level discussion. This is a large slide pack, so forgive me, it takes a bit to go through these. Shouldn't take that long. So what are we going to discuss? We're going to talk about JSF customers, the JSF product families, radar activation and benefits, crosswalk illumination, illumination for parking lots and pathways, and the benefits of solar, the benefits of JSF, and then we'll open it up to questions. As I mentioned, there's questions throughout. Don't hesitate to chime in. So depending on who's on the call, this list of customers might be you, but chances are if it's not you, you cater to or sell to a lot of these people. So our core customers at JSF are engineering firms, where we try and get our products specified for various projects, city maintenance crews, city engineers, Department of Transportation, electrical and general contractors, and of course local school districts for our school zone lighting systems. Some of the core products that we manufacture, and nobody needs to memorize these part codes. This is just a high-level review. But the FL simply means the flashing series of lights, the 24-hour flashers. The AB refers to activated beacons, which is typically the Crosswalk series. School zone are the pre-scheduled, pre-programmed systems, typically for school zone applications. And the IL simply refers to illumination, and we'll talk about the area lighting systems in a few slides. So within those product series, there's 7 main options. And again, you guys don't need to memorize these. We've got the 1400, which is the single round beacon. We've got the 2400, which is the dual round. The 3400, which is the dual round Mastar mounted beacons. The 5800, which is the LED embedded flashing signs, and we've got one of those behind us to show you. The 7400 is the dual round vertically mounted beacons. The 92 is the single RRFB, and the 94 is the dual RRFB. And we'll show you examples of those as we go through. And maybe I should preface this with, I know some of the people on this call may be familiar with our products. So I apologize if I'm going through stuff you already know, but just for everybody's sake, we're just going to do a quick review of everything. So the 24-hour flashers, our most popular beacon, installed all over the world. Actually, let me just shut this down here. Pardon me, I'm just going to minimize something here. Beautiful. So very efficient, very small. Our FRL controller lets us run these beacons 24/7. These products are a very common type of system that every city, every municipality, every state, every province in Canada, everybody needs some sort of flashing beacon for stop signs, warning signs, speed signs, construction zones, barricades, hazard markers, bridge and tunnel entrances. Anytime that there's a hazard or an obstruction that needs to be marked, that's what those systems cater to. With the AB series, our Crosswalk series, it's a push button enabled system using our AB or WP5 controller that allows these systems to talk to one another up to half a mile away. So with the PED activated crosswalk systems, the usual applications are of course crosswalks, sometimes parking lots and construction sites, probably a few others I can think of right now. School zone are the programmable series. So they're also using the WP5 controller. They're also communicating to one another wirelessly, but they're pre-programmed systems that will come on automatically during the school zone hours. And most of the applications, of course, school zone, playgrounds, construction zones, and sometimes arenas and stadiums where they might have a specific schedule where they need to have these lights illuminated. So long story short, the systems are pre-programmed for as many as 5 years worth of calendar schedules. And it's a type of set it and forget it. They will come out automatically when they're programmed to. And lastly is the IL, or the illumination series. And these are solar powered systems that are paired with our AV Crosswalk series lights, as well as standalone for the parking lots and pathways. And we'll dig into that a little bit further as we go through. Any questions thus far?
Oops. Hey, Rowan, can you go to full screen on the presentation?
Yes. How's that?
Perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So just a visual run through, again, the 1400, the 2400 dual, the 3400 dual, but usually straddling a sign on a mast arm. The 5800 is the LED embedded signs, typically in a 24/7 flashing application. The 7400 dual vertical mounted, and the 92 and the 94 single and dual RFB lighting systems. So when we look at all of the round beacon type products, typically they're going to be an 8-inch or a 12-inch, amber or red. And I should mention, all of these systems that we're talking about, they're either solar, they're either AC, or they're both. And typically we have a 20 and a 40 watt, that's the common solar sizes that we have. And if there is an application where there's already utility power on site, but somebody wants to have solar as well, we do a battery tender, which effectively provides AC or utility power to the system, keeps the batteries maintained and charged, and then should the power fail, those systems effectively turn on as a UPS and operate until the power comes back on. So that's what we call a hybrid. So there's the 20, the 40, a strictly AC system. So everything you see here, we can run it off grid power, and we've got the hybrid. 7-degree and 44-degree tilt are the two options for the solar, but 9 times out of 10, where we're discussing, it's going to be 44 degrees. When you start to go further south, maybe we'll start to lean towards a 7-degree, but most of the time it should be the more aggressive 44-degree tilt. And that covers the beacons, the solar, and then of course the RFB is a little bit different, where you've got a light bar that contains 3x7-inch LEDs, as you see there in the rectangular LED sections at the bottom, and usually with what's called a telltale light on the side. Does that make sense to everybody? That's sort of just a quick run through visually what they look like.
It looks good.
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. So radar activation, pardon me. So this is simply another type of activation that we have, and it's usually going to wire into our AB series systems. But radar activation, as an example, here is a 4-way stop, a beacon-to-beacon communication that's going to monitor when traffic is hitting inside the scope of the radar range, and then activating the beacon. So what does that really mean as far as benefits? The radar can be pole mounted or mounted on top of a solar engine. When it is activated, it can flash for 5 seconds to 4 hours. It can be configured for incoming, outgoing, or bidirectional traffic. And it can pick up a compact vehicle up to 2,000 feet away when it's in full range mode. As I mentioned earlier, it's compatible with any of the AV series, solar hybrid, or AC. It meets NUTCD requirements, and in this case, most of the time, the systems have our typical WP5 board, where they're going to talk to each other wirelessly through RF communication. So, any questions on that? Otherwise, we will jump into the illumination series. So, this is a new product for us. What we're effectively doing is we're combining area lighting or floodlighting to our existing crosswalk systems. And if you have applications as well where you might have a standalone parking lot or a pathway that has nothing necessarily to do with the traffic application, you're simply looking for floodlighting, that's where these systems come into play. So starting with the crosswalk side of things, what we've done is we've combined our flashing beacons with a floodlight. And it's a very effective solution for improving pedestrian safety, unsignalized intersections and mid-block crosswalks. So anytime we're increasing driver yield rates and we're making the pedestrian more obvious, more apparent, it saves lives. Here's just some data here from Federal Highways that's showing that improving driver yield rates at unsignalized intersection and mid-block crosswalks with the addition of a flashing crosswalk system to increase driver yield rates by up to 96% with a flashing crosswalk system. And increased visibility of pedestrians at poorly lit crossings with illumination systems. 75% of pedestrian deaths occur in the dark and 70% occur at non-intersections. So anytime we're improving the illumination that's on the site, you are saving lives. So this is specifically for crosswalks. And this sort of gives you a visual diagram of what the systems can look like. Everything is MUTC compliant. And again, some of the common applications are uncontrolled intersections, mid-block crosswalks, school zones, playground zones, stadiums, airports. And to talk about some of the features with these, they can integrate standard PED buttons, audible, touchless, passive activation sensors. With our other crosswalk activated systems, these have built-in RF beacon-to-beacon connectivity. We're using very high-vis LED optics and a super efficient energy management system that's built into these. These can retrofit onto existing poles and structures. However, I would caution that if it is going to be a system retrofit, that we are simply made aware of the existing size of pole. Because the solar array on these is typically going to be a little bit larger than our standard 20 and 40 watt systems, we just need to make sure that the pole is going to be strong enough to support this extra wind load. It is a fairly simple installation, minimizing traffic disruptions because you're not using utility power, you're not breaking the ground, you're not digging and trenching. We can do solar, hybrid, and AC powers with these as well. And they're completely customizable, as is just about every JSF product.
Hey, Rowan, we got a question for you.
Okay.
So the question is the street light a full cutoff shielded street light, and would it support an LED bulb?
Well, the fixture that we're using, we can get it definitely with the full cutoff if that's required. It is using LED most definitely. There's a series of I'm going to spitball 30 or 40 LEDs within the fixture itself, but it's somewhat of a modular design where, depending on the application, there could be more or less of those LEDs incorporated. But yes, it is definitely LED, and we can get the full cutoff shields just for light glare. And dark sky, what's called dark sky compliancy, we can do that.
Perfect. I said it's a great addition, so nice work.
Good, excellent. So that is specific to the crosswalk. So one thing just to clarify specifically, these systems are adding a floodlight to an existing crosswalk application where you hit that PED button, the RFBs illuminate, and the floodlight illuminates only for the duration that the crosswalk light is active as well. So this is and now there are a few different ways we can do that, where we can actually have the light illuminate all night. But to keep the solar and battery size as minimal as possible, it is designed by default to turn on that floodlight as soon as that RFB is depressed, and it will turn that floodlight off as soon as it times out. So stepping away from crosswalks, and we look completely at area lighting in general, common applications for these types of systems are full parking lots, walking paths, bike paths, parks and rec settings. Transit parking rides are a great application where sometimes a transit agency will have a park and ride. The concrete's already poured, it's been there for, it might be new, it might have been there for decades, but there's no utility power connected to it, so there's no light. This is a perfect product to essentially retrofit lighting to an unlit type of parking lot. It's ideal for walking paths and bike paths and park settings where it's very undesirable to bring in utility power and to dig in and trench throughout the ground. But you can get light there with a complete solar system without having to damage so much of the site. Similar to the crosswalk systems, we're using high-vid LEDs, energy management system as well. The solar array is going to range from 70 up to 680 watts, but usually on parking lot side of things, it wouldn't be quite that large for solar. The battery capacity is going to be 54, as much as 500 amp hours. Again, it depends entirely on the application. A very wide operating temperature, data logging. There is optional wireless control and monitoring for these systems as well. And they can run at different, what we call operating profiles. So they can run from dusk till dawn. They can do split night, calendar functions, or custom. And what that means is, if somebody needs to have this system run from dusk till dawn, that's fine. If you can decrease the amount of runtime, you can decrease everything. You decrease the solar, you decrease the battery. So if somebody can have a light that maybe comes on when the sun goes down and maybe it turns off at 11 or 12 at night, maybe it dims through the early hours of the morning and then comes on an hour before sunup. There's all these different options that we can do very easily to effectively fit the application as best as possible. And anytime, as I mentioned, anytime we can reduce, not having it run like all night, anytime we can reduce that power, you reduce the size of the system and of course the overall cost.
Hey, Rowan.
Yeah.
Rowan, I have another question for you. Can the crosswalk be angled to light up the crosswalk? So like, you can see I was pointing down. Can you angle it to?
It's funny you asked that, because that next point where it says IES lighting distribution, to answer your question, yes. Okay, but there's also another way to do it where the LED fixture itself, because this is a proper Cobra head style street light, these are actually manufactured as a roadway light. And so how they're made is they're made with different IES, the Illuminating Engineering Society. They're made with different lighting distributions. And all that means is they throw light in different patterns onto the ground. So there's type 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And basically, depending on the application, typically type 2 is for a pathway. So we can have it angled, as you asked initially, but also we have specific lighting distributions that are effectively tailored for the application. So you're throwing a specific light pattern that's best suited for the site. And in this case, for a crosswalk, it would be a long, narrow light pattern that's thrown onto the ground. Does that kind of answer your question?
I believe so.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Color temperature simply refers to how hot it runs internally, but really it's a 2700 light temperature versus a 5000 K really means sort of more of a yellow amber tinge to it, up to a very light white or almost blue tinge. So there's all those ranges within the spectrum that these fixtures can do. This is just to give you a visual diagram reference of some of the system sizing. So if you look on the upper right, 70 to 170 watt, those typically you're going to see those more for the pathway, walkway type applications. And the lower ones, the 200 to the 680 are really where a larger parking lot type of application where they're going to need a lot of light, or maybe they're going to need it dusk till dawn. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and say 9 times out of 10, the 70 to the 170 on top is what you will see for the Crosswalk Floodlight sort of hybrid system for the IL series. And for the standalone parking lot systems, the 200 to the 680 is what you're going to see most of the time.
Jerome, we got another question for you. What is the life cycle and annual maintenance costs for the solar lights?
That's a fantastic question. And we're going to touch a little bit on that, a little bit on some of the subsequent slides. But so with these solar packs, most of the time, solar warranty alone is going to be 20 to 25 years. So chances are, most of us that would purchase these systems will likely be in a completely different role by the time the warranty expires. But nonetheless, that's a great question. The LED itself for these is 10 years. The battery for these particular systems is a 5-year prorated warranty. And the maintenance for these is effectively nil. I'm going to say in the very worst case scenario, you may occasionally want to clean off the panel. And this, I can honestly tell you, this might not even be an annual requirement. But if you happen to be in an area that's, maybe it's very commercial, maybe there's, we always tell people in specific mining applications, which may not cater to some of the people on the call, but mining is very dirty, construction is very dirty. And in those cases, you might want to spray off the panel every so often. Even snow loading on these systems is not a significant issue. I remember, I'm going to say probably 5 years ago, I ended up seeing a test report, a study done from a university in Alberta, and I can't recall which one it was, but it showed even snow loading of, I think, 1.5 to 2 feet on a large PV panel, solar panel like these, decreased its solar input by as much as 10, 12 to 14% in some cases. So even when you've got a heavy snow load, the decrease in solar coming into the unit is actually quite minimal. So, but nonetheless, if you do have a large snowy accumulation that turns to ice, if they're constantly, that's something you may want to look to clean off or look towards maintenance. But the batteries, ultimately, you're going to leave these for 4 to 5 years and not have to worry about them. The LED fixture, as most LEDs, is 150,000 hours. That's a long, long time before you need to replace that. But typical cleaning and maintenance, no, there's really none that needs to be taken into account for these systems. Pretty much a set it and forget it.
Similar to the RFBs, correct?
Correct. Similar to all the JSF products, to be honest.
That's what I should have said. All the JSF products.
So that kind of covers the product overview, if you will, but something I like to relay, to give you a quick background, Adam as well, my colleague here, we've been in the solar field for, a better part of over 20 years. I've been in sales for 18, 19 of those years. And one thing we have to do almost constantly, and it always pops up, is the educational side of solar. And to really relay to people, you know what, this isn't new technology. It's been around for a long time and it really does work. It makes perfect sense. And so some of these points I always like to mention to people because this can really help people understand the benefits of solar. And this is solar LED in general. This doesn't necessarily have to apply to JSF benefits, which happens to be the next slide. But this is simply the benefits of solar and LED in general, just for everyone's edification. So compared to utility, solar LED systems avoid the need to dig and trench and route power from point A to point B. Anytime you do that, you reduce permitting, labor, machine costs, you reduce everything. Anytime you don't have to dig into the ground. Also, they almost eliminate the environmental impact and destruction that results when you're digging up a section of earth. They also save the installer or end user contractor significant installation time. If you're putting up, for example, if you're putting up one crosswalk and you only need to auger 2 holes into the ground, 18 or 24 inch, or maybe a precast concrete form, if that's all you need to dig versus digging up the entire street, you're going to save significant time. And that results to translate some money. So you're reducing the need to and time frame for road closures and diversions also as a result. And solar also it's easy to allow for the city, the state, the municipality to allow for projects to be done in phases as their budget dictates. So it's very easy for somebody to, we're going to install one crosswalk today, another crosswalk next year, or we're going to do this section of the parking lot today. We're going to do that section next year. It's not so logical to do that with an AC powered infrastructure. Typically, you want to dig everything you need to at once. But with solar, it's really easy to do it in phases as the budget dictates. Something that's very apparent with solar systems as well is they are immune to utility or grid power failure, as well as residual utility fees. So because you're not hooked into the grid, if the power fails, these systems do not. You also don't need to pay the utility company anything because you are not tied into the grid. They also nurture any type of green initiative that the city may have. If somebody's trying to be energy efficient, go green, sometimes LEED's accreditation. These systems certainly help with that, help nurture those initiatives. And if I may be so blunt, or bold, I should say, when sized correctly, they can be more reliable than grid connected systems. And by that, I mean, if you know, as part of the educational side of things, people are always questioning the reliability of solar. And if you think about all the variables that can happen, or the variables that need to be taken into account to shut down utility power. Let's say somebody crashes into a utility pole, or there's inclement weather and a tree falls on a line, a branch falls on a line. There's actually quite a few variables that can make the grid fail. And now, again, when sized correctly, again, we're going to talk about that in a few slides, but when sized correctly, the solar powered system is a completely self-sustaining, autonomous power supply that could care less about utility or grid power. So if they're done properly, they are immensely reliable because they rely on nobody, nothing else but themselves. Any questions on any of that? Okay.
Nope, no questions here.
Good. So that's the benefits of solar LED in general. So some of the benefits of JSF specifically as a company. So how do we make people's lives easier? How does it become easier when people install our product? And some of the benefits are the manufacturing and design are all under one roof here. And I mean, we own the powder coat, we own the metal fabrication, we own all the assembly, it's all done here. And lead times, as a result of that, lead times are much shorter compared to basically anybody else. We have everything done here in-house. We can churn product quite quickly. Also, information, answers, customer service, all of the service aspect of working with a manufacturer is much faster with JSF because we're all under one roof. And, you know, not to toot our horns, but we have multiple decades upon decades of solar LED experience and knowledge within sales and within the design team here at JSF. So effectively, we do know what we're doing. This company has been operating since, I believe, 2002. It's a family-owned business, and they've been in the industry for a long time, and they know what they're doing. As a result of being in the industry for, 19 years, our systems are very efficient, and that efficiency translates into a nice, very small form factor and footprint. And that results to faster and easier installation because the way that our systems are designed, and I've heard it time and time again, how easy our systems are to install compared to other types of similar products. And it's really because it's designed properly, it's designed for easy installation, and it's designed to be small and efficient. So another last two benefits, and I'm going to just quickly jump to another slide as long as I don't lose you guys on the screen share. But we also do solar site assessments where it's not necessarily for every application, but it's very easy for us to jump on Google Maps and another program that we call Sun Surveyor, and we can do a virtual site assessment or walkthrough of any type of site, crosswalk, a parking lot, anywhere within North America. So if anybody is questioning whether or not their particular project is a good candidate for solar, we can actually look at that site virtually without having to go, physically be there. But we can tell you yay or nay, this is a perfect site for solar. And what we look for is maybe there's a 20-story building that happens to be southern facing directly next to where the crosswalk's going to be. In those applications, maybe we may not recommend solar in those sites. There might be ways around it. Maybe we simply refer to an AC system in that type of application. And also, for every project that goes out the door, we have engineering run a solar calculation, where effectively we take NASA radiation data, what's called insolation data, and it's freely available to the public, this data. And what it does is it usually runs on a 22-year average that NASA has collected over the last two plus decades, where you can determine based on that average, in December, how much solar radiation is going to hit any city, any town, pretty much in the world. Obviously, we're keeping that to North America, but we can determine in December how much sun is going to hit that city. And by doing that, we know roughly how much energy we're going to be able to collect using our system. So that, as I mentioned in the earlier slide, when systems are done right, that process that I'm referring to of using that NASA weather data, that is what's right. That is how you do it correctly to make sure the system is going to work properly. So what I'm going to do is, if I can back out of this, hopefully you guys can still see my screen. So what I've done here is I'm going to show you quickly what I refer to as that site assessment. Can you guys see this this cell phone screenshot?
No, we're still seeing your PowerPoint presentation.
Might take a second.
Rowan, sometimes you have to go back into your share screen. You may not have shared your actual screen. You might have just shared exactly the PowerPoint. So you might have to reshare and choose that particular screen.
10-4.
There we go.
Excellent. Technology. So this is simply to give you an idea. This happens to be in Tampa. That's effectively irrelevant. But what we can do, for example, at this site here, you'll look and you can see the S on the green line. And that's simply showing south. But what we're able to do is, if you see that yellow line tracking through the sky.
Hey, Rowan.
Yep.
Well, all we're seeing is your file now. We need to see the picture, so we need to pick the picture.
That's weird. That's weird because I'm on
So when you go into your share screen, there's an option at the top that you can just choose screen, and that will share anything you put on your screen. So don't choose the actual thing, just choose screen, and that'll make it a little bit more efficient.
How about this?
Yep, got you now.
Excellent.
Now you know what he's been talking about.
These are always the things that I worry about, because there's always different variables you've got to take into consideration. So anyways, I appreciate that. So in this photo now, you can see that street is effectively facing south. And if you follow that sort of amber line, I can tell at 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. in December specifically, which is the worst case scenario. We always have to size for December because the rest of the year, you have an abundance of power. So we always use December as a worst case scenario. So in this photo, I can see exactly where the sun is going to be throughout the sky all year. Or sorry, I should say December, all day. And now in this case, if there happened to be a building there, I would still see where that sun is going to track, and it's going to go right behind the building. So this is simply another way for us to determine whether an application or site is ideal for solar or not. Okay. So let me try to show you guys briefly. I know what I need to do now that they've told me. Excellent. Okay. Bear with me 1 second. Why is it taking this time to do that? Share the screen. No, oh, there it is here. Excellent. Sometimes it just takes a while to load. Can you see that screen?
Yes, sir.
That looks familiar.
Yes, it does. So this is just to show everybody else on the line. This is what one of our solar reports looks like. And it may at first appear as Greek, but what these numbers here are, these are the insolation values. And this tells you basically how much sun watt hours, if you will hit the ground in December. And this happens to be in Portland. So this is, I believe this was a single RRFB. and how it will perform throughout the year in Portland. And the end result that we're looking at really is this graph. And this blue line here is showing the amount of energy that's going to be consumed from the lighting system throughout the course of the year. And the red shows how much energy in from the solar we will see. So ultimately, this is a very viable system that will work fine because our energy in is much more than energy out. We always, by default, will do an array to load ratio of 1.2 to 1. And typically it's way higher with some of the systems that we engineer. But what that means is in the worst case scenario in December, you're putting at least 20% more power into the system than you were going to consume. And by doing so, you will have a system that will not fail. So, any questions on that?
Again, please feel free if you do want to ask a question, go ahead and unmute yourself and speak up.
Absolutely. So, can you see our handsome faces again?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Sure, camera's back on.
That works. No, thank God it worked. So, we wanted to just show you briefly. That was the end of the slide pack. Again, as you guys have mentioned, if anybody has any questions, definitely now's the time. And ultimately, I wanted to mention that, you know, Coral Sales is a terrific distributor for us. If anybody has any questions they think of offline or any projects that come up, bring your questions, bring your projects to Coral, and we'll help them out immediately. We'll get you sorted for whatever it is that you need. So, as we talked about, here's an example of the solar crosswalk. Now, obviously, none of this is to scale. These are going to be much larger on when actually installed in the field. When I say larger, that you're going to have a floodlight that's going to sit a little bit higher than 6 feet up. But this shows you what the systems look like. So where you can see, and now you're going to get a bit of glare from the systems here, but you're going to see what the floodlight looks like in conjunction with the RFB. And it's talking with this RFB over here. We're just shown in black, we've shown in yellow, just to give you guys a different example. And also, the 5800 series. So this is typically going to be a 24/7 flasher, where this is going to run 24/7. Or this can be wired into one of our radar activated systems. So that's pretty much our demo in the background here. Is there any other questions? Anybody can think of anything? We're all ears.
I had a question for you, Rowan. You talked on the school zone system side. You guys have a scheduler that you typically use to schedule the school zone beacons remotely, correct?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. Has there been any updates to it?
Yes. Yeah, the JSF Beacon app is constantly under update, but we have just gotten it updated and finalized just in the last month.
Do you have some highlights you can share of the updated JSF Beacon school zone system app?
Honestly, it's not going to look much different than what it did in the past. It's basically all the updates are in functionality and load times. But that original map, unfortunately, I don't know if you have any screenshots of it.
I don't know.
We can send some, but the screenshot where you load up to the map and it shows your beacons, it's going to look very similar. It'll just operate more smooth.
And then I also had another question as far as the install. I mean, you touched base on how easy these are to install on new locations or to fix a down location. Is there a way to kind of open the solar panel and show them kind of the ease of installation, the 2-wire drop, the one that goes to the push button, one to the RFB? I think that goes a long way when you can actually see how easy it is to install.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Hannah.
So essentially, you got your collar. There's 4 bolts. You're just going to pop that on, and then you open this up. Drop my wand. Prop this up.
Oh, he's triggered it.
So you got your clip. You got your battery clip. your, this is your pedal arm and your light arm. And that is it, 3 clips.
So everything really is quite plug and play. The system, for the most part, is all pre-assembled, but you do need to connect the power to the source. So you do need to connect, you do need to connect the controller to the power. Other than that, it's very straightforward for installation.
The only thing you need a tool for is if you're using a 2-wire push button. There's a little terminal strip glued down in here. You have to just connect the 2 wires, your 2 ped wires into the terminal strip using spade connectors.
Okay.
That's it.
And the JSF RFBs work with all push buttons, correct?
Most, well, we should say we typically,
third-party ones, yes.
yeah, we're typically, if there's some obscure, something different, bring it to our attention. We can certainly determine and test it out, but typically it's the Blair and the Campbells that we're using.
Yeah, the 2 and the 6 wires.
Okay. We do have another question that came in. So on these RFBs, can you mount them all including the one with the light on a perforated square tube?
Most definitely.
Yep. So the light, the new illuminated light and an RFB with the solar panel, you can put on a square tube, correct?
Say that again.
So the new system you just showed with the light.
This?
Yeah, that one.
That would not go onto a Telspar. It's because of the solar engine and the battery, there's more weight. There's a little bit more than our typical system, which easily go on Telspar. This will need to go on a specific pole. And I'm going to say, depending on the system, it's likely going to be a 4-inch or larger.
Okay. Does that answer your question? Perfect.
Any other questions?
Yes, Rowan, this is John Wisdom, City of Everett. The stop assembly, is it possible to have a sensor on it to detect vehicles at a distance and then come on?
Well, effectively, that's what the radar would be. Yep.
Okay,
So the answer is most definitely. Yep.
awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and John, if you're familiar with the radar systems, they use Houston radar. And what's the advantage of using a Houston radar on top of their systems allows for a low power consumption. So that really keeps the system running strong with the solar application. So that's a great value add on top of the LED signs to put out in the field.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts, any questions? I think we pretty much, again, this is a very high level overview. If anybody else has, needs more of a technical review on any of our systems, by all means, reach out to the gang at Coral and we'll help them out immediately. We'll help answer any additional questions, or if you guys have any projects coming up, we're here to help. So, any other thoughts, comments, questions?
Oh, the one other thing I forgot to ask, can you do like custom colors?
Yes. By default, we do green, black, and yellow, but we can do custom, I think, as well. Depending on quantity, it's probably $50 a system, give or take, or
I think it's $100 each.
oh, okay.
System.
Okay.
And again, on quantity, sure, it's based on quantity. So we
Okay.
just need an REL number or
Yeah.
paint chip sample and we can do it.
Yeah, and so that's, REL is obviously, it's a very common color chart, relcolor.com, and any one of those we can do.
Perfect. It's exciting.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
Okay.
Any other thoughts? Anybody else?
No.
Perfect. And like Ron said, if anybody's looking for more information on specific families or models, reach out to Coral, let them know, and we can definitely put something together for you guys.
Oh, we have another one that just came in. So before we close it out, so the RFB, it has the telltale on both sides of the LEDs, correct? Or on the both sides of the RFBs?
It depends what you want.
Okay, it's all customizable.
Usually when we quote them, there's one telltale on the system. You can have one on either side, you can have none. It depends entirely what you want.
Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. All right.
Yeah, just to add to that too. So if you're doing a refuge island and then you have an RFB on each side, So they're basically angled, so they're always on the left. So as you're looking at them, or they're always on the right, I should say. Depending on how you look at it, it's always facing the crosswalk, and then the center, because they're always on the right, you'll have one on each side because you have an RFB back to back. So yeah, in a 3 crosswalk situation, you will have a telltale facing all directions without having to do doubles.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid to ask us, and we can get you the right answer. You know, you can shoot us the design, the drawing, and you know, let us help you out with that. That's what we're here for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, Rowan,
Yeah.
thank you so much. And Adam, we appreciate your time. And again, you guys are always helpful on the phone. And one thing I can say is your technical support is with Kyle is so helpful out in the field. We can get systems up and running quickly. So again, thank you.
And thanks a lot for putting this together, and thanks for taking the time.
All righty. Everybody have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Thank you.